didn't expect the glass table to explode beneath him. 1 second, Kallan Royce was signing a contract, and the next, a bullet tore through the boardroom window, shattering everything in a violent burst. Executives screamed and ducked. Security dropped to the floor. But Kallan stood frozen, watching the bullet embed itself in the wall just inches from his head. Someone had tried to kill him again. He didn't panic. He never did. But as security rushed in and dragged him toward the emergency exit, he noticed something strange. Behind the fallen chairs, behind the terrified board members, Ella stood perfectly calm. Her arms folded, her eyes following the shattered glass like she had already predicted where every piece would fall. He hated that expression. Too composed, too calculating for someone who was supposed to be ordinary. Still, she said nothing. She just watched him collect himself like she had expected him to survive. When they finally made it into the private elevator, Kallan snapped, "You didn't flinch." Ella looked at him, her face unreadable. "Should I have?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Something about her tone bothered him. Not the words, just the confidence. Calm, controlled, almost like she knew more than she should. But no, impossible. She was the girl his family picked, quiet, background, unthreatening. A woman he didn't choose, didn't want, and barely acknowledged. In his mind, she existed for one purpose: to fulfill a family alliance and stay out of his way. And for the first few weeks, she played that role perfectly. Too perfectly. They reached the penthouse and Kallan finally exhaled. His assistant rushed in behind him, panicked. "Sir, should we relocate you to the safe house? This is the third attempt in 2 months." "No," Kallan loosened his tie. "I'm not hiding." Ella stepped past them quietly, almost ghost-like. He noticed she didn't even look shaken. Not a single tremble in her hands. No racing breath. Nothing. He stared at her. "You didn't say a word in that entire mess." She shrugged. Talking wouldn't have stopped the bullet. Kallan frowned. Normal people scream. Normal people aren't useful in a crisis. Her voice was low, calm, carrying a sharp intelligence she usually hid. And that bothered him, because she was supposed to be simple, predictable, boring. But boring people didn't react to danger like trained operatives. He followed her into the living room. "What did you mean by useful?" "Exactly what it sounds like." He stepped closer, studying her expression. She didn't lower her gaze. She didn't fidget. She didn't look nervous. She looked like someone who was used to bullets. Kallan swallowed, suddenly uncomfortable. "Ella, who taught you to stay calm like that?" "No one taught me," she replied. "I just don't panic. That's not normal. Neither are 3 assassination attempts in 2 months. But here we are." The room fell silent. She had never spoken to him like that before. Not rudely, but honestly, directly, almost fearlessly. He didn't know whether to be impressed or suspicious. Later that night, he stood by the window overlooking the city, replaying the scene in his mind. The bullet, the glass, the sound of chaos, and Ella, standing still like she was analyzing everything. He turned sharply when he heard soft footsteps behind him. "Can I ask you something?" she said. He lifted a brow. "You're talking now?" "I only talk when there's a point." "And what's the point tonight?" She looked straight into his eyes. "Do you know who's trying to kill you?" Kallan scoffed. "Join the club. No one knows." She didn't blink. "That's not entirely true." The comment hit him like a cold slap. "What does that mean?" Ella hesitated for a moment, just a moment, then shook her head. "Nothing." "No," he stepped closer. "You were going to say something." She turned away. "Forget it." He grabbed her wrist, gently, but firmly. "Ella, look at me." She froze. Her eyes lifted to his, and for the first time he saw a flicker of something. Fear? No, not fear. Conflict. "Tell me what you know." "I can't." "Can't or won't." Silence. Kallan's jaw tightened. "You're hiding something." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "And you're not ready to hear it." He let go of her wrist, irritated and unsettled. "You talk in riddles. And you see only what you want to see." What is that supposed to mean? She looked at him with a strange softness. You judged me the moment you saw me. You decided I was nobody. That makes it easy for you, but very inconvenient for me. Kallan felt something deep in his chest shift. Ella, who are you really? She shook her head. Not tonight. He watched her walk away, her steps quiet but purposeful. She moved like someone trained, someone aware of every corner, every sound, every shadow. He had never noticed before, but now he couldn't unsee it. Later, when the penthouse was silent, he passed by her door and stopped. The faint sound came from inside. Not talking, not music, typing. Fast, precise, controlled typing. He hesitated, then pushed the door open just slightly. His heart froze. Ella sat on the floor with a sleek, black tablet. Not the cheap device she always carried. This one had encrypted symbols glowing in neon blue. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, too fast for an average person to understand. Her voice was barely audible as she whispered into a communicator. Target survived the attempt. They've accelerated their timeline. I'll adjust my position accordingly. He cannot know yet. Kallan's blood turned cold. Target. Accelerated timeline. He cannot know. He pushed the door open fully. Ella snapped her head up, eyes wide. Not shocked, but caught between truths. Kallan, she whispered. You're not supposed to hear that. He stepped forward, voice low and dangerous. Ella, what exactly are you? Kallan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The weight of the question alone filled the room like smoke. Ella stood slowly, the dim light casting sharp shadows across her face. She didn't reach for the tablet. She kept her hands visible, like someone trained never to make sudden moves around a suspicious man. Kallan, she said quietly, this isn't what it looks like. Oh, really? He stepped in, shutting the door behind him. Because it looks like the woman I married is reporting to someone about me like I'm a target. Her lips tightened. The word doesn't mean what you think. Then enlighten me. She took a slow breath. Not tonight. No, he snapped, finally losing patience. Tonight. Right now. You've been acting strange since the marriage, and I've ignored it because I thought you were just adjusting. But now, you're hiding things. Speak. Ella closed her eyes briefly, as if weighing a decision. When she opened them again, her voice carried a different energy. Steady, controlled, almost resigned. I'm not your enemy, Kallan. Convince me. She hesitated, then whispered. If I wanted you dead, you would have died 2 months ago. The honesty in her voice stunned him. Not the words, the certainty, the terrifying confidence. Kallan stepped back, his pulse spiking. Who says things like that? People like me. And what are you, Ella? She didn't break eye contact. Someone who's been keeping you alive. The room went silent. He stared at her, trying to process the meaning behind her words. Then he scoffed. You're joking. Does it look like I'm joking? Why would you protect me? She exhaled. Because it's my job. Your job? You're a what? A spy. No. An agent. No. A threat. She blinked. Only to people who want you dead. He didn't like how easily that sentence rolled off her tongue. He pointed at the glowing tablet. What were you typing? Encrypted communications. To who? People who need to know you're still alive. Kallan's voice dropped an octave. Still alive. Meaning someone expected me to die today? Ella didn't flinch. Yes. And you what? Prevented that. I tried. Tried? A bullet came through my office window. And it missed, she said calmly. By less than an inch. His heart thundered. You expect me to believe you predicted that? I didn't predict it. She approached him slowly. I redirected the shooter's signal. Delayed their timing. It bought you 0.8 seconds. That's why you're standing here. He stared at her. You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe you've underestimated me the same way you underestimate every quiet person who walks into your life. Her words cut deeper than he expected. She stepped past him toward the window, speaking softly. Do you know what I noticed the day we met? No, he said sharply. That you looked at me like furniture, like an object, someone with no value. She glanced back at him. You didn't even ask if I wanted the marriage. He clenched his jaw. You didn't complain. It wouldn't have changed anything. He shook his head. So what? You agreed to marry a man who doesn't matter to you. You matter, she whispered. Just not in the way you think. The answer made something deep inside him twist. Confusion mixed with anger and something else he wasn't ready to name. He walked to the tablet and picked it up. She didn't try to stop him, which somehow scared him more. Lines of encrypted symbols flickered across the screen. No letters, no numbers, just impossible patterns that made his eyes blur. What language is this? It's not a language. Then what is it? A system. She paused. One only a few of us can read. He glared at her. Who is US? Ella remained still for a long moment, then said the words that changed everything. I am a cipher sentinel. He frowned. What is that? Some kind of hacker? No. Assassin? No. Then what? She met his gaze. We are guardians. Of information. Of systems. Of people whose survival affects global stability. He stared at her like she had spoken a different dimension into existence. My survival affects global stability? Yes. Ella, I run a company. I build data systems. I don't control the world. You don't, she said. But someone is trying to use you to crash it. His breath caught. Crash? What exactly? The Global Predictive Intelligence Grid. Kallan's voice cracked. Are you serious? You already built the foundation. They want to weaponize your work. And if they can't get it, they'll end you. He took a shaky step back. He wasn't sure if he was breathing right. You should have told me. I couldn't. Why not? Because you didn't trust me. Her voice softened. Because you didn't even see me. He opened his mouth, but no words formed. Ella continued. The day your board announced the marriage, my assignment changed. I became your legal wife, not for romance, not for family, but because proximity was the only way to protect you without exposing the entire Sentinel network. He stared at her. So this entire marriage is a lie? No, her voice cracked for the first time. The purpose wasn't personal, but the moments weren't lies. Kallan swallowed hard. So you never felt anything? She looked away quickly, as if the truth scared her. Feelings are inconvenient. That's not an answer. She didn't speak. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Tell me the truth. Her breath hitched. Kallan, please don't ask me that tonight. Which meant yes. It meant much more than yes. Before he could push further, her tablet vibrated sharply. She grabbed it, scanned the encrypted message, and her face drained of color. Kallan's stomach dropped. What now? She whispered. They've accelerated the timeline. Meaning, you won't survive the week unless I stop them. Before he could react, the penthouse lights flickered. Then went dark. Complete blackout. Ella grabbed his arm instantly. Move. Now. Kallan frowned. What's happening? They're here. The way she said it froze his blood. Who's here? The people who tried to kill you today. She pulled him toward the secret staircase. They're coming for the final attempt. Kallan didn't argue. For the first time, he followed her without question. Because the wife he thought was nobody was the only one keeping him alive. Kallan had never run from danger before. He built empires, faced markets, crushed enemies with strategy and precision. But in the dark, with alarms silent and air turning cold, he felt something he hadn't felt since childhood, real fear. Ella pulled him through the hidden staircase like she'd lived in the walls long before they married. She moved quickly, silently, checking corners with the ease of someone trained to expect ambushes. Ella, he whispered, breath tight. Why aren't security guards storming the place? Because they're already compromised. The words hit him like a punch. You're telling me the people I pay were paid more by someone else, she said without slowing. I warned you weeks ago you surrounded yourself with predictable loyalties. You didn't warn me, Ella. I did, she countered. I just didn't use words. They reached the lower level, a maintenance corridor he didn't even know existed. Ella pulled a small device from her pocket and slammed it onto a fuse box. Lights flickered. A metallic hum activated. What's that? He asked. A signal scrambler. They can track your digital footprint. Not mine. You're insane, he muttered. No, she said calmly. I'm prepared. Her confidence unsettled him more than the darkness. They continued running until a faint vibrating sound echoed behind them. Footsteps. Multiple. Fast. Coordinated. Ella, Kallan's voice dropped. They're close. I know. She pushed open a steel door and shoved him inside. Stay low. Don't move. And you. I'll stall them. He grabbed her wrist. Ella, no. They'll kill you. She turned to him with a small, unexpected smile. Sad, soft, terrifyingly gentle. I've survived worse. He tightened his grip. I'm not letting you go out there alone. You don't have a choice, she said. You're the target. Well, you're my wife, he snapped, surprising even himself. That has to mean something. Her expression changed. Just slightly. Enough for him to see emotion flicker in her usually controlled eyes. It means everything, she whispered. Which is why I need you alive. He was about to argue again when the footsteps stopped right outside the corridor. Ella tore her wrist from his hold and shoved him farther into the shadows. Stay quiet, she commanded. Then she stepped out. Kallan peeked through the crack of the door, heart hammering. Shadows moved. 3 dark figures approached Ella with weapons drawn. One stepped forward. Mrs. Royce, stand down. Her tone was chillingly calm. You're not authorized to call me that. You've interfered long enough, the man said. Hand over the asset. Kallan's stomach twisted. Asset. Him. Ella tilted her head. If I refuse? The man lifted a silenced gun. Then we remove you. Kallan tensed, ready to jump out. Stupid, reckless, desperate. But Ella shifted before he could blink. A flash of movement almost too fast to follow. She kicked the weapon from the man's hand, disarmed the second with a twist of the wrist, swept the third to the ground with a precision that didn't belong to any ordinary wife. Kallan stared, stunned, speechless. Ella fought like a shadow, silent, strategic, efficient. Every movement calculated. No wasted motion, no fear. But she was outnumbered. One of the attackers grabbed her from behind, pinning her arms. Kallan surged forward, unable to stay hidden any longer. Let her go, he roared. Ella's eyes widened. Kallan, no. But it was too late. One of the men turned his gun on him. Ella reacted instantly. She slammed her heel into her captor's knee, snapped free, and threw herself between Kallan and the bullet. The shot fired. Something hot and sharp grazed her arm, but she didn't stop. Using the pain like fuel, she lunged forward, disarming the shooter with a brutal efficiency. Moments later, all 3 men were unconscious. Kallan reached her as she pressed a hand to her arm, blood dark against her sleeve. You got shot, he said, voice shaking. It's a scratch, she muttered, wincing. Barely counts. You protected me. Again. You're still breathing, she said softly. That's what matters. Kallan cupped her face, his chest tight. Ella, I misjudged you. From the very beginning. I thought you were nobody. Her voice broke on a whisper. I was never supposed to become somebody to you. Well, you did, he said. And I don't want you disappearing when this is over. She blinked, and for once, she looked uncertain, vulnerable, human. I don't know how to be anything other than what I was trained to be. Then let me teach you, he whispered. But before she could answer, her tablet vibrated again. She checked the message, and her expression hardened. They know we're alive. More are coming. Then we leave, he said. Together. She nodded slowly. Together is new for me. He took her hand. Get used to it. As they escaped through the final emergency exit, heading toward the unknown, Kallan whispered, Ella, thank you. She didn't answer, but the way her fingers squeezed his told him enough. And as the night swallowed them, a new chapter began. Not just in their marriage, but in the war they would face. Because the wife he thought was nobody was the only person who could save everybody. If you enjoyed this story and want more gripping episodes, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life.